It's 90.3 KEXP. We stream all over the world at KEXP.org. My name is Troy Nelson, and a very special day here at KEXP because we have the one, the only Steve Earle in the KEXP live room. So, Steve, if you're ready, take her away.
So you wanna be an outlaw, but listen to me. Living on the highway ain't everything's supposed to be. Everybody reckons that they wanna be free. Ain't nobody wants to be alone. Running down the alley at 2:45. Hollering for Sally, honey, what you trying to do to me? She said, go to hell, I'm going back to Tennessee. I said, Angel, you can never go home. Never go home. Never go home. If you wanna be an outlaw, you can never go home. So you wanna be an outlaw, better listen up, kid. Steal $1 million and you had to keep it hid. Ain't no place to spend it in the desert if you did. Can't take it with you when you go. Something always laying for you up around the bend. Everything goes around, come back around again. Can't trust anybody, not a lover or a friend. Mama, maybe then you never know. Never do know. Never do know. If you wanna be an outlaw, then you never do know. Boy, you better think twice, better not pout, better not cry. Won't nobody give a damn about you when you die, but the devil when the combos do. When you're standing at the crosses, don't you try to flag a ride, don't you fall down on your knees, don't you know it's already been tried. Hate to tell you, but the only upside is sing a devil out of the blues. Singing the blues. So you say you wanna be an outlaw blues. Hey, hey. Oh, so this next song is maybe the second song I wrote for the record, and I wrote it, one of two songs I wrote actually for the TV series Nashville, never having seen it, but I wrote this one because Buddy Miller asked me to. I wrote the first one because T-Bone Burnett, when he was musical director, asked me to. But then later on when I started, pulled out these two songs I'd written, I realized they sort of had something that sort of stuck together, and realized I've been listening to a lot of Waylon Jennings records recently, and that probably had a lot to do with it. This is called Lookin For A Woman. This is kind of what we're pimping right now, the track. Early in the morning, I'm out of my bed. Hangover ringing like a hammer in my head. I can't rest no matter what I do, 'cause I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Well, I've been attending Tennessee, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. East Coast, West Coast, Timbuktu, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Bayou, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Just can't shake these lovesick blues, looking for a woman who won't do me like you. I thought I about Melissa, I thought about Sue. I thought about your sister, much meaner than you. Evangeline, Caroline, Rose will never do. 'Cause I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Well, I've been a 10 and 10 too. Looking for a woman who won't do me like you. East Coast, West Coast, Timbuktu. Looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Heartbreak Hotel, Blue Bayou. Looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Just can't shake these lovesick blues. Looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Oh, I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you. Yeah, I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you. I'm looking for a woman who won't do me like you.
Steve Earle, live here on 90.3 KEXP. That song, Looking For A Woman, and the song before that, the title track to the new album, So You Wanna Be An Outlaw.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wanna be one word. That was just me being precious, I think, was all that was about.
And you're always precious, right?
Yeah, that's me. I'm Mr. Precious.
Of course. The new record, where did you record this one at?
Actually, Austin for the first time in my career. Arlen Studios in Austin, which belongs to some friends of mine that people have done for years. It's Lisa Fletcher and Freddie Fletcher on that place and run it. Freddie Joe was the drummer along with my bass player in Billy Joe Shaver's band when they were teenagers, and I've known Freddie forever. They it's a great studio. Freddie's he's Willie Nelson's nephew as well, and they wanted me to record there for a long time, and then. Originally Chris Masterson and Eleanor Whitmore were living in Austin, my guitar player and fiddle player. So they were there. By the time we actually got around to making the record, they had decided to move to L.A., so I had to fly them in anyway. So that's the best laid plans of mice and men. Was there
a producer? Did you work with?
Well, the producer, that's a different, deal. That was, I brought in Richard Bennett, and the reason for that is Richard was a guitar player on Guitar Town and Exit Zero, and he and I wrote some of those songs together. He, at the time I met him, was playing guitar for Neil Diamond, and he's back out with Neil Diamond right now. It's funny. He and his son, Nick, are playing in, both of them are the two guitar players in Neil Diamond's current touring band, which is
that's really
a
cool.
Trip. But and when we made Guitar Town, Nick was little bitty. But it's like, Richard, part of it was a connection to that, but also Richard is from Phoenix, and he was around when Waylon Jennings was playing clubs around Phoenix, and, Waylon came in and sat in with a house band that he played with, and he understood what I was connecting to, which was, what people talk about as outlaw music. It was Doug Somm and Willie Nelson both moved back to Texas at the same time, and Doug sort of convinces Willie that he can play places besides country joints, and he plays Armadillo World Headquarters for the first time. Doug introduces Willie to Jerry Wexler, and he signs him to Atlantic, and that's when Willie makes Shotgun Willie and Phases and Stages. Waylon hears that record because he and Willie are best friends, and makes a record called Honky Tonk Heroes, which is all Billy Joe Shaver songs. And this moment, I was in Texas when it started there, and I moved to Nashville as a result. Started to settle around Nashville. Waylon was in Austin. In Nashville, Willie was in Austin. I could have stayed in Austin, but I was from only 90 miles south, and the weather was too good, the girls were too pretty, and the dope was too cheap, and I knew I'd never get anything done there. So I went to Nashville, and it was a moment that it seemed like heaven. It seemed like the inmates were firmly in control of the asylum, and country artists were discovering that they could make records, have some control over their own records. And it lasted for a few years, and then things kind of went back to normal.
Yeah.
And
well, I think that you carry the outlaw torch very well. And there's artists who claim to be outlaw country artists, but I believe you're the real deal.
Well, it's what I say. Just the main thing I want to rehabilitate the term. What it's about is artistic freedom. I mean, it's not about behavior. George Jones was not going to the liquor store in the middle of the night on a lawnmower at 3:30 in the morning. There are no liquor stores open and at 3:30 in the morning in Tennessee. He was going someplace else to get something else. So it's never. Country singers always took drugs and always did stuff that was illegal. It just wasn't talked about. It was just part of the deal. But it was about artists being able to make records the way that they wanted to. And they saw that rock artists had that freedom and they wanted to do it themselves.
Right. So your first record came out, it was a rockabilly record in 1982. So you've been doing this a little while. I
have. I mean, it took me a long time to get that record out and even longer to get a major label record deal, which resulted in Guitar Town. But, it was, I got to Nashville in 1974. Wow. I wrote for publishing companies around there and starved several perfectly good women half to death. And it just took me a long time. That door shut, on the asylum before I could get a record deal. And, I wasn't what they were looking for in a recording artist from, by the time 1975, 76 rolled around. They already had a Waylon and a Willie, and they didn't want anybody else like that to deal with, I guess. And I probably wasn't good enough, but I stayed around and I kept learning and eventually got a record deal. And that moment, some people, we refer to it as the great credibility scare of the mid-1980s in Nashville, but it was just a moment when I just sort of made a record and with the help of other people, and it was something I had arrived at sort of organically over 12 or 13 years, and that was influenced by both country records and rock records. I was going to see Bruce Springsteen had a lot on the Born in the USA tour, had a lot to do with Guitar Town getting written and the way that I wrote that record and put it together to be an album. So, it's a weird deal. It just took me a long time to get a record deal.
Well, I was curious, too, because a lot of people talk about, especially people that have been in the music industry for decades and decades, they always talk about, of course, how much the music industry has changed. But I wanted to ask you, what has stayed the same?
That it's all about songs. People try to talk about, what happened in Seattle and in the late 1980s and try to lump it all together and talk in terms of grunge. And there was a scene here, but there were bands here before people ever used that term, and some really good ones. I was kind of, I was a Soundgarden and Alice in Chains guy, but I was also married to an A&R person, so if I wanted to see my wife, I spent a lot of time here in the late 1980s. So I kind of saw it firsthand, the whole thing around Nirvana getting signed, and then the way history records that is there was this thing, and Nirvana was part of it, and maybe the best band out of a group of bands that people refer to under a label. But the truth is, it's about songs. And Kurt Cobain was an exceptional songwriter, and that's why Nirvana was as big a deal as it was, and it would have been a big deal and even bigger deal if Kurt had lived. And Led Zeppelin is not a proto-metal band. They had songs, and it's always about songs. And the good news about the music business now is anybody can make a record. The bad news is anybody can make a record. If you want to reach an audience and keep an audience, you have to have songs. I mean, people will come hear people play that just sort of have a sound and a vibe, but the people that I think have a following that stays with them. I mean, my following's relatively small when you think in terms of the music business, but it's all over the world. And it's not about one song. There's still the guy that shows up and yells Copperhead Road, through the whole show. And I always play Copperhead Road, but he's usually, been thrown out by the time that I do, So it's not by me. It's just the other fans get tired of it, especially if he yells it in the middle of Goodbye, then, two girls beat him up and throw him out,
Yeah, so Copperhead Road has kind of become your Freebird, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been other songs. There's 2 or 3 songs that I've written that I have more than one song that has become indispensable to some people, and I think that's what makes a career. It's about songs.
Yeah. Absolutely. You've worked with so many people in the past. You've worked with the Pogues, Patti Smith, Sheryl Crow, Sean Colvin, Joan Baez, Super Suckers. The list goes on and on. Miranda Lambert shows up on this new record.
Yeah, we wrote a song together and we recorded it together.
Fantastic. Do you have any current collaborations going on or any plan for the future? Or do these just kind of
right now? I'm just basically. I wrote a new song for Joan Baez. She's making a record with Joe Henry as we speak, and I produced her last record. And wrote 2 or 3 things for it. And I've written several songs specifically for Joan, and she sings a lot of my other songs. I think there's only one person that has had more songs in Joan's set than me, and that's Bob. And right now, I might be ahead of Bob in the set that she currently does every night. But it's it's a big deal. It's a huge honor. So I wrote a new song called "Times Like These" that. It looks like they're going to record. I sent it to him. She seemed to like it. So
Very cool.
We'll see what happens. But collaborating with anybody, we're getting ready to do a long tour with this band, and it's the best band I've ever had. And it starts kind of on purpose in Texas. We're doing 2 nights at Whitewater Amphitheater with Ryan Bingham, and then we will be at Willie Nelson's 4th of July picnic this 4th of July, which is like. That's kind of a dream come true for me, one way or the other. I was at the very first 4th of July picnic, bought a ticket, and I was there, and I just it's a big deal for me to play the picnic. And then the tour goes on from there and heads east, and we eventually end up out here on the West Coast again in August, and Neptune's kind of become our home in Seattle for the last several tours, so that's where we'll be is up there at the U. So.
Love that place.
Yeah, it's great.
And also, this is your 16th, 17th record.
16th studio album.
Yeah.
Plus a few live records and other things.
And the reviews have been great across the board.
I haven't read them.
Man.
I don't. It's not a good idea to Google yourself.
I Googled yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's the deal. It's like, don't Google yourself. You can Google me. I can Google you, but don't Google yourself. That's the deal.
But it is great. The production is fantastic. The songs are great. You just continue to keep putting out great music, and thank you for that. And I know that our listeners would love to hear a couple more from you.
Yeah, cool. This song is actually I'm very, very proud of it. This is a very electric record. Most of it, I'm on the back pickup of a Fender Telecaster, which I've never really tried to do. I've always been sort of afraid of Telecasters. They're sort of unforgiving guitars. But it's like, but I've got a really good 1955 Tele, and I finally got it out and used it on nearly all this record. There's some acoustic songs too. We'll talk about that in a second. But this is, it is a folk song. It's, and when I get out west, where people, finally this drought is over, on the West Coast and in the mountains, but who knows what's going to happen after this? And there's always guys every year that go out and fight these upcountry forest fires. So I thought it was time that Hot Shot Crew's got a song. They may have had one for it, but I hadn't heard it and I didn't write it. So this is called the Firebreak Line. Well, I'm cutting out a firebreak line. Cutting out a firebreak line, digging down deep to the clay and lime. Cutting out a firebreak line. Well, I'm a wild body boo on the hill of Mountain Hot Shot Crew. I can swamp and fell, I can walk through hell. I'm an EMT, a torturing too. The wind's blowing hot and dry, and the sparks and the cinders fly. I'll make a stand with 20 good men, a good band of brothers you'll never find. Got their back and they got mine. Well, I'm cutting out a firebreak line. Well, I'm cutting out a firebreak thread. Cutting out a firebreak line. Digging down deep to the clay and lime. Cutting out a firebreak line. He is a friend of mine. When I'm cutting out a firebreak line, he invented this thing like an axe I swing, and he never left a member of his crew behind. When they come across the line, he took him down an abandoned mine, and he pulled his gun, said he'd shoot the first one that got it in his head and tried to go outside. Got everybody out alive. Ed Pulaski is a friend of mine. When I'm cutting out a firebreak line, cutting out a firebreak line. Digging down deep to the clay and lime. Cutting out a firebreak line. Woo! out a firebreak line, digging down deep to the clay and lime. Cutting out a firebreak line, gotta pray that the wind will die and it rains down from on high. Let's raise a glass to the hot shots past, hot shot heaven up above the sky. They're looking down on me when I'm cutting out a firebreak line. Well, I'm cutting out a firebreak line, cutting out a firebreak line, digging down deep to the clay and lime. Cutting out a firebreak line. Well, I'm cutting out a firebreak line, cutting out a firebreak line. I'm digging down deep to the clay and lime, cutting out a firebreak line. So, this record, well, the standard version of this record, there's a deluxe version. There always is nowadays. We don't make records for girls anymore. We make them for nerds. So you always got to have a couple of versions. And actually, the vinyl, which we pay a lot of attention to, I oversee the mastering of the vinyl myself, and it's really worth doing. And we sell a lot of it. It's kind of the one part of the record industry that's growing is vinyl. And so the vinyl version of the record and the deluxe CD are the same, and they contain 4 extra tracks, which are covers, two Willie Nelson songs, one Waylon Jennings song, and a Billy Joe Shaver song. And they were a lot of fun to record. But the standard version of the record, the way I originally sequenced it, closes with this song. We lost Guy Clark, one of my teachers, and he had cancer for a long time, and he fought way too hard for his own good. He was just too tough. When he passed away, Rodney Crowell and I, that's what we have in common is Guy and Susanna Clark finished raising both of us because we were both teenagers when we got to Nashville. And Susanna passed away 6 or 7 years ago, and I thought Guy would go within a year, but he didn't. And so he passed away. I got word, went to Nashville. We had a wake, and then a lot of people came there. I met all these young people, like young songwriters in Nashville had been writing with Guy because he suddenly took to co-writing in his old age because it kept him going and kept him writing. It's one of the reasons I started co-writing recently was by his example. I've been learning from him since I was 19. Didn't see any reason to change that. And then a few of us loaded up, me, Rodney, Sean Camp, Jim McGuire, loaded up Guy's ashes on a tour bus, and we took them to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Don't mouth off about what you want done with your remains around Terry Allen, because it'll happen. And Guy had told Terry, evidently we only have Terry's word for this, that he wanted to be in a bronze of Terry's, because that's what Terry's day job is he's a visual artist. And so he's sitting on Terry's mantle, as far as I know now, waiting for a bronze to be cast, and that's where he'll end up. When I got home, we got there, more people came in. Lyle Lovett came in, Joe Ely, Robert Earle Keane, Emmylou Harris, and Jack Ingram. And we sang some more songs, and we cried some more, and then when I got home, I wrote this. Goodbye, Michelangelo. Ain't no trouble where you go. Ain't no pain to burn you blind. Just enough to draw a line. Goodbye, Maestro, farewell. Gone to heaven, been to hell. Maybe just New Mexico. Goodbye, Michelangelo. Farewell, my captain, adios. Sailed upon the sea it goes. Chase the white whale to the end. Bring the story back again. I'm bound to follow you someday. You have always shown the way, so we knew where we had to go. Goodbye, Michelangelo. Like he did before, saying forever it's just goodbye till it comes my time. I won't have to travel blind. Taught me everything I know. Goodbye, Michelangelo.
Beautiful song. Beautiful tribute. Goodbye, Michelangelo, the closing track on the new album, So You Wannabe An Outlaw. And the song before that, Firebreak Line, which I appreciate because my cousin Tim has been a hotshot for over 15 years.
Oh,
so.
wow. What crew?
I don't know the name of the crew, and I actually...
Where is he?
He comes from Omaha, Nebraska, but he seems to get flown to, like, Colorado or...
Yeah, no, that's what happens. They bring in crews. They're 20-man crews, and they bring them in from all over the place. And he probably knows what a Pulaski is. That's what I'm talking about in the second verse. There's two pieces of equipment that were invented specifically for that job. One is called a chingadero, and it's sort of like a hoe. And I don't have to tell people, I don't guess where that name comes from. But the other is called a Pulaski because it was invented right after the turn of the last century by a guy called Ed Pulaski who worked for the Forest Service. It's an axe on one side, a mattock on the other. It's the main tool that hotshot crews carry into the wild because they're based on the idea of, it's like special forces. It's 20-man teams. You know, everybody has 2 or 3 specialties basically, and we lose them every once in a while. It's a dangerous job.
It really is, and he was at one time jumping out of helicopters and stuff.
That's special. Those are smoke jumpers. Those are specialized shots
exactly.
right
Until
there. That's a whole other thing.
He injured himself and then was no longer doing that. But he's been a part of it a long, long time. So I really appreciate that you writing a song about that. That's
I run into these guys. So I fish with a fly rod, so I run into these guys sometimes. They're getting up the same time of day I am when I'm going fishing. They're going to keep me from burning up, so it's kind of crazy.
Great. Once again, the new album is called So You Wannabe An Outlaw. You also have a Sirius XM radio show. Yep,
Saturday nights. It's 9 o'clock Eastern time, I think. I never get to hear it because I'm always on stage, but it's called Hardcore Troubadour Radio, and it's about songs and songwriting. And I have guests when I'm in New York and I do interviews, and the rest of the time I beat people about the head and shoulders with what I think they need to know about a particular period, a studio or a writer or a producer, and just do kind of specialized hour-long shows like that.
Fantastic. And you playing anywhere this evening? It looks like, are you playing at Silver Platters?
At Silver Platters? I'm not
Soto.
sure what time.
Looks like 6 o'clock p.m. is what I got.
Sounds about right.
Let's go with that.
I've played as many mom and pop independent record stores as I could on this promotional tour. We always put something out for Record Store Day. Yeah. And this is about our 3rd or 4th trip to Silver Platters, in the last several years. And we were at Easy Street, a bunch before that. Mm-hmm. We were just we're at Music Millennium on this trip, both Amoeba stores in L.A. and San Francisco. We've been in Texas. We did Good Records in Dallas, and we did Waterloo in Austin.
Yep. So
we
visiting
missed
lots of
Twist
independent.
and Shout in Denver this time, but we normally make them too. We just couldn't get the schedule to work.
Right. But you're visiting independent record stores, playing at independent record stores.
That's where you go to get vinyl, man.
That's right. You're out there fighting the good fight.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, thank you so much, Steve Earle, for stopping by the KEXP studios once again. You're a friend of the station, of course, and welcome anytime. And we appreciate your music.
The station's been a friend to me. Thank you very much.
That was Steve Earle live here on 90.3 KEXP Seattle.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.